Tonight, the story of a state psychiatric hospital where nurses and staff say every day they're putting their lives on the line.
The problem is more and more of those patients are not just mentally ill, they're also violent criminals. And Tom Lydon of the Investigators is here right now to join us on another side of this story. A couple months ago, you were telling us about those patients being stuck in jail, and this is sort of the other side of the equation.
It really is. For years now, people have been saying we've got to get the mentally ill out of our jails. They're also realizing it's a little more complicated than that. That move had some unintended consequences for the Anoka Metro Regional Treatment Center. The mentally ill coming from county jails are now even taking priority over patients coming from hospitals. And the staff at Anoka say many of their patients are behaving much more like violent inmates. Just off Highway 7, this Pentagon on the Prairie is where we send our mentally ill to get better. Each patient costing taxpayers $1,300 every day. The Anoka Metro Regional Treatment Center is a 110-bed state psychiatric hospital, but it's also becoming a kind of de facto prison. 132 patients transferred here in the last year from Minnesota's crowded jails. And when they walk through these doors, they're no longer criminals. They become clients.
It doesn't do justice to the really mentally ill people to be mixed in with the criminal aspect. The criminals will tell you they have nothing to lose. We've had them say to staff, "You're working under my effing roof."
Jackie Spaniers was a nurse at Anoka Regional for more than 20 years, until she was injured by a patient 2 years ago. She's hardly alone. The local union documenting staff who get sucker punched, assaulted, stabbed in the eye with a pencil. 55 staff injuries last year alone. They even have a Facebook account where they share their horrifying stories. Their new slogan is, "I came here to work, not to die."
That almost makes it sound like the patients are running the place.
Pretty much at this point, I would say that.
Patients who have repeatedly punched or assaulted staff. Like Mohammed Hassan, who last February suddenly attacked a staff member, licking her face, sticking his tongue down her throat so she couldn't scream. Police took him to jail. He was back that same day. Rachel Nichols stayed too, despite her fatal attraction for a nurse, carving the nurse's name into her leg, sending love letters and calling her home, threatening to strangle and kill her family, or hiring a hitman to do the job.
This is really a hospital setting.
Emily Johnson Piper is the new Human Services Commissioner.
Anoka's patient population is very challenging, and it's always been very challenging, but it's been complicated by the increased number of patients that we're receiving directly from jail.
Commissioner Piper is promising change, but that may require changing the law. 2 years ago, the legislature passed the so-called 48-hour rule, requiring jails to transfer any inmate who's not competent to stand trial to a psychiatric hospital within 2 days. That usually means they come here to Anoka Regional or the state hospital in St. Peter, where security is much tighter.
Minnesota law, this 48-hour rule is requiring us to prioritize people coming from jail above and before the people that are coming from hospitals that need treatment here.
Do you think that's the way it should be?
It's the way that the law is written.
For privacy reasons, the Department of Human Services wouldn't let us take any pictures of the patient areas inside the Anoka Metro Regional Treatment Center, which underscores one of the issues here. It's a bit of a black box. We know who comes in. We know very little about what happens once they get here. And those who do go inside don't like what they see. A recent review from CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, found nearly identical patient treatment plans. Generic, cut and paste, one size fits all. CMS says $3.5 million in federal funding for Anoka Metro is in immediate jeopardy.
I was blown away by that report.
Sue Abderholden is a longtime advocate for the mentally ill.
I had no idea that that was going on. Had no idea that we had identical plans for people.
One reason is that Anoka Regional is incredibly short-staffed. 55 unfilled job openings, more than 5,000 hours of overtime in January alone, with double shifts leading to dangerous burnout.
Makes it a lot tougher. It puts you in a vulnerable position just based on the fact that you're tired.
Has the 48-hour rule sort of backfired on us?
It has produced a lot of unintended consequences.
Because it's a complicated system where the mentally ill get passed between courts, hospitals, jails, and back again.
What we have is a flow problem. It's not necessarily, some people say, if we just build more beds. It's a flow problem.
In fact, nearly half the clients at Anoka Regional no longer meet the criteria for hospitalization. They should be going back to court, even jail, or a less expensive community-based facility. Instead, violent criminals are treated like clients, putting both staff and other patients in peril.
The staff here do have safety concerns. They also are just some of the most committed public servants you'll ever meet. And they believe in the work that they're doing here and caring for the most vulnerable people in the state.
And there are some hopeful signs. A job fair at the Anoka Regional yesterday filled up about 70% of those open positions. There's now a plan in place to satisfy the feds, and Anoka is in line for $3 million in security upgrades. And Commissioner Piper impressed many of the workers there when she spent Christmas at the facility to see firsthand the staffing struggles. But truly fixing the problem, that may also involve changing the 48-hour rule. And guys, there is talk about at least fixing some aspects of it at the legislature this year.
This is so complicated. What is the solution?
You know, I think one thing you have to realize is that it is complicated. These are always going to be difficult cases. I think the one thing I've taken away from that is we don't do a very good job of triaging on the front end at the jails, and maybe even triaging at the back end when they leave these facilities. But the big thing is, and everyone's talking about this, we need these community-based kind of facilities out in the community, away from the hospital setting, for people who don't need that heavy type of care. Legislature has authorized money for that, but we really haven't scaled that up yet.
Okay.
And it's expensive.
It'd be a lot of money, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, but think, at Anoka, they're spending $1,300 every day on these patients.
Right.
There are cheaper options available and better options.
All right, Tom.
Good